Hello, welcome to Book Bites with Maggie. Today is Season 2, Episode 15, and we are going to be highlighting staff rereads. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to be coming to you again live for Book Bites from the Napanee Public Library, and today we have pulled books from our collection that staff have found themselves going back to more and more frequently. Staff rereads is kind of like this fun thing where, like around the water cooler, we sit there and we're like, did you read this? Did you read that? And we all find ourselves kind of gravitating towards the same books where we're handing them off from one to the other. Some of the books that we're going to be talking about today at Book Bites is going to be similar to that. Others are kind of quiet reads that we haven't told everybody that we're reading over and over again. So with this being a live reader's advisory here on social media, if you are a fan of rereading or if you are not, please leave a comment so we can kind of engage with you in that way. We would love to see what you're rereading, or if you are opposed to it completely. If that is something you are ingrained not to reread a book, well, that's kind of what we're here for, because if you're using the library, chances are you don't want to buy a book that you're just going to read once. So we can help you along that way, but maybe we're going to bring you some new titles that you've never heard of. So join us now. We're going to be talking for the next, 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. With these rereads, you're welcome to share this video, and it's going to be posted to YouTube. So if you watch it on a delay, you'll still be able to pick up some great titles. Again, if any of the books that you are interested in reading are ones that you want us to put on hold for you, just leave us a comment, send us a direct message, and we would be happy to set those aside for you, as long as you have your Napanee Public Library card. And we can pull these from the collection. As always, we will try to mention if the books that we're holding up do come in other formats, because we know physical books are not for everybody. Okay, ready to get started?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Michaela. She is usually behind the screen. She is our social media guru. And we also have Miss Brittany, who is going to be joining us with some of her rereads. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. Your stack's bigger than mine. You want to start with a couple of yours?
Sure. Okay, so I do have a big stack today because I reread books a lot. So sometimes I'll get stressed or I'll get, tired. I don't want to look for something, so I pull out an old favorite and I'll reread it, or I will re-listen to it.
Oh, okay. So you read it the first time, the second time maybe try a different format and listen to it, and you can not maybe half listen because you already know what's going to happen.
So this first one is a Nicholas Sparks book. It's kind of a comfy read. So I think I've read it once, listened to it twice. It's a great book for in the car when you're going on trips. And I have family that's far away, so I can sit in the car and listen to a book for like a few hours at a time. So The Lucky One by Nicholas Sparks, it's one of my favorite ones by him. It is a movie, and I think it might be on Netflix that you can watch it. But it's about, it's a romance. It's obviously Nicholas Sparks. So it kind of just takes you into that story where you're just sitting back, and it's a romantic book, and kind of takes you on a wild story, and there is some sad parts in it, like most of his books, but it's just fun to sit back and read, make you feel a little bit better, make you feel a little bit warm and fuzzy inside. So it's one of my favorites, and I will say the audiobook is way better.
Is this a 2 POV?
No.
Single point of view?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's only told by, is it? Actually, it might be multiple points of views.
I haven't read that one.
I don't remember exactly. It's been a while since I listened to it, because the audiobook has different voices in it, but I don't know if it's actually told that way or not.
So what other formats? You said we have this one as a physical book that you're holding up.
So we have it as a book. I actually checked out the book on CD, so not Overdrive or Libby, online on the internet. We actually have like the CD that you can put in your CD player. My car doesn't use that anymore, so I think I actually have listened to it on Libby. And it's there too. So
lots of options.
We probably have the ebook too. I would be surprised if we didn't.
So if you're a fan of reading it and then watching it, or watching it and then reading it, which would you recommend doing it first?
Reading it.
Read it first?
Yeah, the
and then
book's
watch
way better than the movie.
More
the book
details.
is way better. So
nice.
I would read it first, watch the movie.
Well, you've got 2 very different books on your stack, so do another one here. What's the second one in your stack?
So the next one I've probably read more than 5 times. I read it when I was in middle school for the first time. It's a nonfiction book. You've probably seen it. It's very popular. It's one of our most checked out books in the nonfiction stacks. But it's called A Child Called It. It is by Dave Pelzer, and it's like a biography, but it touches on things like child abuse, child endangerment, parents that have mental disorders, and kind of the life that he lived when he was a child in an abusive household. It's very, very sad. It will make you very mad. It'll make you angry. It'll make you cry. It'll make you laugh in some spots. And it's just a great book to see a different perspective, to learn more about maybe kids that are in that type of situation, how to deal with it, what they're feeling. It just kind of opens your eyes to a lot of things like that. And it is nonfiction. It's based on real life of the author, so it's a great book to read. But it's
all the feels.
Oh yeah, all of them, all the feels.
And like you said, this is one of our most checked out books. I feel like this book has been replaced like 5, 6, 7 times over the course of just my time here at the library, because it's worn out, and then we get another copy, and then it's checked out, never returned, because somebody loved it that much that they wanted to keep it, and so we've replaced it. And again, this copy that's on the shelf it's well received.
Yeah,
that doesn't always happen with nonfiction.
I probably go back to it like a few years, like, cause I'll think about it, and then I just want to dive into it again. I want that perspective. I want that story that just gets you and makes you think about things. So I go back to it pretty often, but there is a few more. I think there's 2 more that he wrote that are based on the same story. Like, one is he's older, and then one more of like an objective view of the first one, I think. So these are all nonfiction, and they are in 362.76 is the call number, so in our stacks downstairs.
So you like to kind of re-immerse yourself into stories that make you think and show that empathy. I need a whole different world. I'm not a huge like sci-fi or dystopian or world building reader, but sometimes when I need that escape from a current situation, a current reality, or something tough that's going on in my life, it's easy to go back to a book, like you said, that you've read once, and maybe you try it in a different format. Maybe it's a book that is still, it's captured you in a way that you can easily re-enter it. So oftentimes fantasy is one of those genres where that happens. The selection series is not new to Book Bites. It's come up multiple different ways because there is a mystery to it. It is, like I said, it's futuristic, so we've had a dystopian. There is a romance to it, a love triangle. So I think it's shown up in some of our YA Book Bites things. But the selection, this was not a book that was on my radar at all until I was working one shift here at the library. And I'm not kidding you, in the course of just a couple of hours, I had 3 very different customers come in, all asking for this book. And I couldn't figure out how all these different generations of people, all different types of walks of life, were asking after a book that I was like, what are these people reading out of the teen section? So I put myself on hold, and let me tell you, I devoured this. So the selection is the first book in Kira Cass's The Selection series. There's 3 books in the main series, but then it takes another character and it spins off future generations from that. And then there's additional books, and then there's a set of novellas that kind of fill in the gaps of sub-characters. But I'm not going to delve into completely what the selection is all about, but just consider it like The Bachelor meets The Hunger Games in a futuristic setting. So if you're just looking for an escape, this would be an excellent one for that to happen. I read the book in 2016. I listened to it in 2017. And I'll probably reread the whole series yet again because it is being optioned for film, and I believe the cast has been picked, and it should be going to the screens this year, next year, who knows with COVID. But when it comes out, everybody is going to be trying to get their hands on this book. So if you want to grab it before everybody else does. We have it here in our collection, and we'd love to put that on hold for you. We have it here as our physical book. We also have it on Libby and Overdrive as an ebook option. So we'd love to get this into your hands before you see it on the big screen, and maybe, like the rest of us, you'll find yourself rereading this book.
I actually wanted to bring this one, but Maggie took it first, so I couldn't add it to my stack. But I just
I
read
think
it.
probably a third of the library staff has read this book, and it's so funny because some staff are like not teen book
Yeah.
readers, and they've still read it. So
It's just a good book.
It
It's
is.
well written. It's it's engaging. So it's a good series, the whole series. So.
Yeah. Okay, go for it.
I'm gonna save this one for last because it's my absolute favorite. But I'll do a fun one. So I
We
was
can have
talking
picture
to
books.
Maggie, and I thought, there's one book that I read every time I come into the kids department. It's my favorite picture book. It's so cute. Not even just the pictures, but the actual story is so cute. I recommend it to everyone that I talk to.
I think this is one that you've bought for people as gifts too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah. So it's called Not Quite Narwhal. It's by Jessie Sima. It is the cutest book you will ever read in your whole entire life. I
Okay,
promise.
so for the people that can't see it, in the way back, what's on the cover there? It is
It's a narwhal, and in the book he thinks he's a unicorn. So, and I mean it's kind of a play on words, like not quite normal because he doesn't really fit in. Doesn't fit in with the narwhals because he wants to be a unicorn. Doesn't fit in with the unicorns because he lives in the ocean. So it's just like, it's so cute. It's so cute, and I think there are a few more that kind of go along with the storyline.
by the same author.
By the same author,
Okay.
and they are also so cute. But this book, every time I just want to feel good, I will open it and I will read it. I mean, like, in the end, it has a little rhino and it says, "I'm a unicorn." So,
Everybody wants to be a unicorn.
yeah, everybody does, and I mean, why not? So, great for kids, great for adults. I recommend everybody read it. I will probably read it again before I put it back. So.
If this is one that strikes your fancy, leave us a comment, and after Michaela is done rereading
Yeah,
it yet
when I
again,
return
we'd
it.
love to put it on hold for you so you can have it as maybe a bedtime story for yourself. We'll do another one. I'm putting you on the spot today. Your stack is so big.
Okay, this was another one that was recommended to me by someone that worked here, and I don't really get into like adult psychological thrillers, but I've read this one twice because the first time I read it, I was so shocked by what I read that I had to read it again so I could fully understand it. So I don't think this is one that you can read just once. I think you have to read it twice.
Because once you read the ending, then other things would
Yes.
make more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
I've
when
read
you
books
go
like that.
back through it, it still kind of blows your mind away at the end. But you pick up on things, you'll notice like, major trigger warning. There is a pretty descriptive scene of what happened. It's a mystery about a girl who was assaulted, and they tried to discover who assaulted her, and it talks about the assault in detail. So trigger warning if you're gonna read it, if that's not something that you want to read, or want to read in a descriptive way, I would steer clear. But it's another one of those books that really makes you think. It makes you, open your mind to people that have been through what the main character in this book has been through. And what it's kind of hard to describe without giving away the book, but
Is this teen?
no, this
Adult
is
fiction?
adult.
Okay.
It's All Is Not Forgotten, I didn't even say that, by Wendy Walker. It's the craziest book. I've read The Shining and it was scary, but this book is scary in its whole own way. It's the craziest book I have ever read.
Sticks with you.
Yeah, and it stays with you. And like I said, I think I read it first and then not even a month later read it again so I could fully understand it. So All Is Not Forgotten by Wendy Walker. Great book. But
What other formats do we have it in?
We have it as a book in the collection, and we have it as an e-audiobook. I didn't know we had it as an e-audiobook. I would not listen to it because it would just make my skin crawl. It would freak me out. But if you're into that type of thing, if you like psychological thrillers, horror,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
an
not
e-audiobook
my
would be
go-to
good,
genre
so.
either. I feel like real life can be too scary on its own.
Yeah, and this one is very,
Very
real,
scary.
real life. So that's a good one.
My next book, I have not actually read the library copy, but this is Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. It is how to be the courage to be vulnerable and transforming the way that you live, love, parent, and lead. And I say I have not read the library copy because I have my own copy that is dog-eared and like way marked up from the multiple times that I have read this book. I actually first was introduced to this through my home church. It is not a Christian study in any way, but it was a book where I sat there and so many things were applicable to my life and the way that I approached different things that, I marked up this book and I have read it and reread it, and each time that I return to this book, something different will stick out to me. I was a young parent when I first read it, and now as a parent of two older kids, different things pop out to me, and I've written in the margins and I've marked it up, and then I ended up putting my address label in the front cover because I kept passing it out to my friends and I wanted to make sure I got my book back. So if you are looking for a book, it would make a great book discussion because there's a lot to delve into. The topics are heavy, and it's kind of something that it would be good to digest with somebody else. One of my favorite things that even to this day my husband and I we find ourselves returning to is something that we picked up from Daring Greatly, is like talking to your kids about the way that they show courage and the way that they approach the world. And one of those things that Brené talks about in this book is not by telling a child that they look really nice because of what they're wearing, but instead say that they make that item look nice. So like say my daughter comes down the stairs and she's wearing this beautiful dress. I don't say, wow, that dress is beautiful. I would say, wow, you make that dress look beautiful. Because it's all in how she represents herself and the way that she carries herself. And again, I'm probably going to end up rereading this one before the end of the year because, I still need courage. You can have courage and still feel like you're failing in so many ways. This is an excellent book that, it's never going to go anywhere. This book is something that I will continue to read and loan for as long as it will hold its binding together. But if you're looking for a great book, we do have it in the library collection, but we don't just have it as a physical book. We have it as, like Michaela mentioned, we have a books on CD where it has a physical disc, something that you can put into a player. We have it as an ebook and an e-audio book as well. So if you're going on a car ride, if you just need something to listen to, this is a fantastic book. Brené Brown has written multiple books, and I think we have almost everything or all of her books in our collection in multiple formats. And she even has podcasts, and she's done TED Talks. She is very well spoken. She gets her point across, and I would highly recommend Daring Greatly to anybody who would want to read it. Why don't you share a couple more?
Okay. Another teen or kids book that I have that Maggie has never read is Harry Potter. She has never read Harry Potter. I've read it probably 3 times. I've probably seen the movies like 5 times each. This was the book that I read as a kid, and that I read as a teen, and that I read as an adult, and that I read probably like a year ago. I think like during COVID, I read it again. I don't always read all of them. I don't always read the first one first. Sometimes I'll read the 7th one, or the 3rd one, or my favorite one, which is, I don't even remember what it's called now, Escape from Azkaban. And it's just so good every time. You notice something new every time. The movies are good, but I would recommend reading the books first. And then I think there's 7 books and 8 movies, or 6 books and 7 movies. The last book is made into 2, and they're all so good. And I have been begging Maggie for years to read Harry Potter.
She's not the only one. The buildup is so strong that when I finally do read it, I'm not going to tell anybody.
It's just a good book to go back to. I mean,
you know, the comments of this are only going to be about getting Maggie to read Harry Potter, so, you know.
That's why I brought it with me, so. Harry
The
Potter,
guilt trip is real.
I've read it a few times. I recommend it to everyone, kids, adults. It's pretty good, so.
Okay, what formats do we have it in?
We have it in everything.
Everything.
We have the book, we have the book on CD, we have the audiobook, we have the ebook, we have the movies, we have it in everything, so.
What's that mean? No excuses.
Yeah. Read the books, watch the movies. They're all pretty good.
That was so subliminal. That was intentional just
Yeah.
towards me.
Yeah.
The last book, well, duology that I wanted to share with you is Fried Green Tomatoes at Whistle Stop Cafe. This book has been around my entire life. It is something that I would hear referenced in conversation. It was something that somebody would quote the movie. They would do all kinds of different things, and this was just, it was always around. But it wasn't until I was tasked to read a book that was published in the year that I was born, which was 1987, that I was finally like, you know what, I'm going to read this book because everybody's talking about it. I say that now, and then I just follow it up with Harry Potter, which I haven't read. But so here we have the Fried Green Tomatoes of Whistle Stop Cafe, and I read this book in 2020, and I enjoyed it so immensely that it just made sense why people 13 years after the fact have been reading it over and over and over again. And the different parts of the story, there's a mystery, there's a murder, there's friendship, there's love, there's loss, there's guilt, there's racial inequality, it is everything all wrapped up in just a few hundred pages, and it sticks with you so much so that the author went ahead and wrote a second book that follows this first one, and this one came out 13 years after the fact. Oh, they look so pretty. I just love it. Okay, so The Wonder Boy of Whistle Stop. This one is from the perspective of a child in this book. So even though there's 13 years apart in their copyright dates, it is generations later that Bud is an old man in this story, and the storyline continues. And if you have read the first book and probably read it over and over again, enjoyed it multiple times as a reread, or have read it and then watched it and then read it again, or vice versa, the setting of Whistle Stop is all based around the railroad tracks, right? It's around the depot there. But when that dries up, the whole town kind of just vanishes. And so the characters from our first book, as they meld into the second book and the town kind of just falls away, what happens to the people and the connections and the family that they've created within themselves and the characters, it makes you think, what's going to happen to a town when it becomes vacant? What happens to those friendships? And a lot of those answers are found in the Wonder Boy of Whistle Stop. Dot Weems is going to continue having her weekly newsletters, which are basically just gossip about her community, but you get to know the characters in such an integral way that it becomes funny, that you just pick up on these intricacies, is that right?
Yep.
Of these friendships. And so that follows through in this, and then after the town is kind of disbanded, it follows through in her Christmas letters. So you get to still see what is happening in people's lives, because what was the newsletter is now these Christmas letters where you get to still see those insights. I highly recommend reading this book if you were able to ever enjoy Fried Green Tomatoes at Whistle Stop Cafe. Both of them we have in our physical collection. The original Fried Green Tomatoes at Whistle Stop Cafe we also have as an ebook, and then we have the newest one, The Wonder Boy of Whistle Stop. This is again from 2020. We have this one in the physical book. We have it as a book on CD with the discs. We have it as an ebook and as an e-audio book, and all of those are accessible with your Napanee Public Library card. If either of these books are ones that you would want, just let us know in the comments and we would be happy to set those aside for you. And you can check them out at your convenience. Okay, go ahead and share some more.
Okay, so I have 3 more. The first one, I actually currently have this checked out on my card right now. It's poetry, so it's not something that I read very often, but it's something that I really like. And I actually got this book. I recommended it to be added to the library collection when we were doing Expand Your Horizons.
Oh, the book with the name.
Because the author's name is Michaela, which is my name. So that was one of the Expand Your Horizons tasks last year.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, see, that's what this one was. Well, this one was too.
Yeah.
Read a book from the year you were born.
Oh. So I got this one for Expand Your Horizons in 2020, I think it was. And I've probably read it, 3 or 4 times since then. It goes fast. There's not very many words on each page. It kind of follows along the storyline of a girl, and then she meets someone, and then they fall in love, and then he's not so great, and then he leaves, and then she kind of picks herself back up. So it makes you sad in some lines, it makes you happy in other lines, it makes you feel great in some. I take pictures of each page that I read because it's like little quotes that I read over and over again. And you don't even have to read the book front to back. It makes more sense if you do, but you could just pick it up and read one page and something will stick with you. Something will mean something to you. The second book, just as good, and I think there might be a third one. But they all kind of follow that storyline of building yourself back up, feeling good about yourself. And especially great for young women who are in their 20s, young adults that have been going through hard things. Reading it makes you feel good. So that is one of my favorites. I've read it a few times. When He Leaves You by Michaela Angemeyer.
And we only have it as a physical book. And
yeah, we just have the physical book, and then we also have book 2. I don't remember what it's called though. The next one I have is another teen book. I've talked about this one a few times. This is actually book 2 in the Shatter Me series by Tahara Mafi. This one is called Unravel Me. The first one I just reread this year, and we have the first one as an e-book, or an e-audio book, I think. So I think I listened to the first one. And then I called the library at 8:45 and was like, hey, I'm coming curbside pickup. Can you pull these books for me? I want to keep reading them. So then I checked out the rest of the series and I read them. I think there's 5 in the series. It's similar to the Selection series where there's novellas with spin-off characters that kind of dives into theirs. It is sci-fi, dystopian, also similar to the Selection series, about a girl who's 17 who's locked in an insane asylum because if she touches people, she can kill them. And then she finds people that she might be able to touch without killing them, and it just goes on a huge story about the world and different things that are going on.
It's a good escape read.
Yes, good escape. I've read it a few times, pretty good. And it's Unravel Me is the second one of the Shatter Me series by Tahara Mafi. We have this one as a book and an ebook. The first one, I think we might have in our collection. And then we have the audiobook, and they're available on the Be in Overdrive. Not all of them, but we do have all of them as physical books in the collection. And then I have one more, and then we're gonna ask Brittany to share hers. This is my all-time favorite book. I own these. I just gave out my copy to a friend so she could read.
I hope you put your name in it. I had to learn the hard way.
I didn't think of that. I don't think my name is in it. But it's the Dark Secret series by A.M. Hudson. She's actually from Australia. She's an Australian writer. We only have the physical books, but we have the whole series. I think I've recommended them for the collection. But they're just so good. I read these when I got my first Kindle, and the first book is a free ebook on Amazon. So that's why I actually borrowed it. I'm rereading these right now. I'm actually on book 2 for
What's
the
the genre?
third time. It's it's vampires, so it's sci-fi.
Is it?
It starts.
Is it really?
Yeah, it starts as teen, but it goes more towards the adults, kind of like the Twilight series. It grows on itself as the main character gets older. If you liked Twilight, if you're watching the movies right now, because it just got added to Netflix, you'll like this book a lot better. Twilight is good, but this is better.
You're all about the challenges today.
Yeah, I know. But this one, I recommend it to everybody. I recommended it for the library collection. I recommend it to my coworkers. I recommend it to my friends. And I reread it all the time. It's my favorite. And it's so good. It's about a main girl. Her name is Ara, and her mom died. They were living in Australia, so they moved to America, and she meets a boy who might not be the kind of boy that he says he is, and he might not be 17, if that gives it away at all. It's a love story, but it's also a story about personal growth again. The main character is a woman, and she grows up through the books, and you can tell. In the first few books, she's young, immature. Later in the books, she's independent, she's self-sufficient, she's strong. So it's always my favorite books to reread. If I ever just get bored, I'll just crack open and reread them all the time. So
Very good. You kind of made my stack look
I know.
tiny. I mean, I do reread books, not as many as you apparently though. But you know what? It's just what you said. They like to stick with you.
Yeah.
So there's people who are either rereaders, or there are people that are against it to the very grain of their bone. So as Michaela and Brittany are switching here, let's see if we have any comments. For those of you who are watching us live, what are your thoughts? Do you reread? Do you not reread?
We have some info from Kelly.
Okay, Kelly's another co-worker, friend of ours. She says there might be 6 to 7 in the Shatter Me series. And another one, from the series being released later this fall, so we'll have to check on that and add it to our collection if we have it.
I think Kelly was the one that got me started reading Tahira Mafi when I was in high school.
I can believe that.
And
She's good at recommending
and
books.
it was still good, so.
Nice. If you have any other recommendations, Kelly, for rereads, please leave them in the comments for people who are watching. They will be able to see those even after we log off, and then they might get some more titles to enjoy. Joining me now is Miss Brittany. She is the Adult Services Programmer, Manager, doer of all the things in the library. And I said, hey, what is a book that you reread over and over again? And she buckled down, and now she's going to join us. Is this your debut on Book Bites? Yes, so welcome. It's not as scary as everybody thinks it is. So what is a book that you have read and reread over and over again and just find yourself being drawn back to?
Okay, so first off, I read a lot of nonfiction. I don't have a lot of time to read, so when I do read, it needs to have some importance to it because I like to learn about things. And so one of my favorite nonfiction authors is Joel Salatin. He has, I think, 14 books.
Wow.
We just got a new one in recently, so we just have this one and another one out of all those. But I am making my way through all of them through Interlibrary Loan, so if you like this one, definitely Interlibrary Loan the rest of them because they're all good. Joel Salatin is kind of like the king of the homesteaders, so that's kind of why I was drawn to Joel. So just a little bit about the book. From farmer Joel Salatin's point of view, life in the 21st century just ain't normal. Here he discusses how far removed we are from the simple, sustainable joy that comes from living close to the land and the people we love. Soliton has many thoughts on what normal is and shares practical and philosophical ideas for changing our lives in small ways that have big impacts. Soliton, hailed by the New York Times as Virginia's most multifaceted agrarian since Thomas Jefferson and the high priest of the pasture, and profiled in the Academy Award nominated documentary Food Inc., so that is also a good movie, a documentary, and the best-selling book The Omnivore's Dilemma, also a good book, and understands what food should be: wholesome, seasonal, raised naturally, procured locally, prepared lovingly, and eaten with a profound reverence for the circle of life. And his message doesn't stop there. From child rearing to creating quality family time to respecting the environment, Soliton writes with a wicked sense of humor and true storyteller's knack for revealing anecdote. Soliton's crucial message and distinctive voice, practical, provocative, scientific, and down-home, philosophical in equal measure, makes Folks, This Ain't Normal a must-read book to get you rethinking about what you are eating and where your food comes from. Joel, who calls himself a Christian, libertarian, environmentalist, capitalist, lunatic farmer, has a way of making his books laugh out loud funny when trying to make a serious point. His compilation of things that have happened and are happening today make you wonder where we went wrong. He offers suggestions of what we can do to fix it. It's quite alarming to learn about what is allowed in our food. Joel writes books such as this to open up our eyes to what is really happening behind the scenes so we understand that life today just ain't normal. There's a quote that's in this book from Joel, one of my favorites. He says, "The supermarket supposedly appeared on the American landscape in 1946. That is not very long ago. Until then, where was all the food? Dear folks, the food was in homes, gardens, local fields and forests. It was near kitchens and near tables, near bedsides. It was in the pantry, the cellar, and the backyard."
Wow.
So yes, Folks, This Ain't Normal is one that I keep going back to, just because, as I mentioned earlier, that his books are funny.
But
and
they get you thinking.
Yeah, he makes a very good point, and a lot of times I'm like, amen, if I'm reading it, and then my husband's in the room, I kind of startle him, but there's some good.
But then you have to reread it out loud to him, see, so he knows what's happening.
So yeah, it's a good one if you like
Okay,
nonfiction.
and then nonfiction, you said.
Yep.
That's where we're going to find it on our shelves.
Yep.
Very good. So again, please leave us any comments. If you would be interested in these books, we'd be happy to pull them aside for you. You can check them out with your Napanee Public Library card. And until next time, we will see you at Book Bites. Bye.